Everybody was laughing at us when we showed up with this electric car, thinking, why'd you bring a golf cart out to a car race? And we really didn't know what we had. So when it took off like it did, that's when we realized, oh, maybe we should get some race tires.
Hey everyone, I'm here today with Phil and Dave with the Apex Cricket. Y'all might have seen this online before, but if not, you're gonna see it today. So Phil, Dave, thank you guys so much.
Right on.
Y'all took me for a ride earlier, which was awesome. It was a real kick in the pants.
It is.
I'll put in some roll for people to see that, and they can see how white my knuckles were.
Right on.
Let's start with right in the back here, talking a little bit about this car and how you guys went about building it.
When we first decided to build the electric car, Thunderstruck Motors over in Santa Rosa had just posted on their website a Leaf motor combination that they were selling as a kit with their control system. And it was on my wish list to purchase, and then at Christmas time, they put it on sale for like $1,000 less, and it's like I just bought it.
Oh, nice.
And no real clear idea what we were doing, but let's get the motor. And then ultimately built the same chassis that we built about 12 years ago, all Corvette drivetrain. It was basically our 2-seat sprint car, and that car is a beast with an LS1 in it. And then when we went electric with the Nissan Leaf, it's comparable power to the V8, but it's just quicker. It just gets there faster.
And this here is the Leaf unit right here, right?
That's correct. That's a Gen 3 Leaf traction motor. This is our homemade adapter to go from there to the Nissan Spec V transmission. When Nissan decided to make a race car or a sports car out of the Sentra, they took the engine and drivetrain out of the Maxima and stuck it in the Sentra.
Oh, really?
So that's essentially a modified Maxima transmission. The key thing is it has a limited slip differential.
Okay.
Factory. And so we were able to basically mate the Nissan Leaf to the Nissan Spec V transmission and give us a limited slip differential.
The first couple of years of driving this car was with the original Nissan Leaf drive unit complete, which is just a single gear with an open differential. And the limiting factor out here on the autocross course was just putting power down. So this winter's big project is getting the new transmission with a limited slip.
Even with the slicks, you guys still have problems getting that power down.
Burn. Yes. With the street tires, you can go down the road. I've been down Folsom Boulevard before, and evenings about 70 miles an hour, and you can slam the throttle and smoke the tire, which is a really bad feeling when you're doing 70, 80 miles an hour. But the limited slip has changed all that. In the Corvette version, it obviously has a limited slip in the differential in the Corvette version of this.
Yeah.
And when he got the Corvette version on the road and taking it out, when you'd get on it, it was just solid. I mean, it was just a bullet. And really realized that the limited slip was the problem with this one, just by driving that car and then coming back to this one. And it took about a year. We went up and down through Nissan. We had a relationship with the Nissan Western United States general manager, and it employed her to help us get the limited slip out of Japan, and never could get it. And that's when we started.
There's one that exists.
Yeah.
You can see it on the Amazon Japanese website.
But you can't order it.
No. Oh man.
And so we tried everything we could, and then finally, it was about this time last year, we just finally decided to go get the transmission and figure it out.
So this is the Leaf unit, and you guys are controlling that with, is it the Thunderstruck VCU?
Yep.
That you're controlling, and that gives you a lot of tuning capabilities and things like that.
Yep, you've got everything from gas pedal. You can decide where in the pedal movement you want the power to come in. You can set the maximum torque. So potentially we could have detuned this down about half for somebody else to go out and try it that's never driven it before.
Oh, sure.
And you literally could play with that.
That's cool. So you mentioned that you have the AB comparison in a VET version, but there is still some Corvette in this car.
Yeah,
is that right?
Everything, all the suspension, steering, and brakes.
All of the
still
suspension.
Corvette.
Is that the C5 Corvette?
Yeah. C5 and C6 are virtually the same.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Similar. So the advantage is it gives you all the stock components are essentially upsized on a vehicle that weighs half as much as a Corvette.
What does this weigh right now?
About 1,700 pounds.
1,700 pounds. Wow. But it's a go-kart, basically.
Basically.
But you said it's street legal.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. It's a good grocery getter.
You know, the CHP does an inspection when you go to get it licensed, but they're really just looking to see if anything's stolen.
Ah.
And they go through, verify VIN numbers on everything they can. It's surprising how many hidden VIN numbers there are on parts.
Interesting.
And the CHP checks that. Ultimately, I went to the Auburn CHP office to get the inspection done. I thought it was remote, might be less pressure up there. The gentleman, when he drilled the rivets to put the VIN number on, he screwed up the powder coating with the drill.
Oh.
So I didn't notice it. He put those rivets on, signed up these papers, said you're good. I was kind of stunned. It's like, oh, awesome. Drove off. I got home and my wife pointed out the paint was messed up, and I realized that what had happened is he felt really guilty about messing up the paint. He signed me off and sent me on my way.
Worked out.
All good. But yeah, it's a fantastic car to drive on the road. It's a pleasure to drive. You don't get a lot of wind. There's actually an air pocket in there when you're at speed, when you're driving it. It's a very light car on the road. It just feels good.
That's really cool. It felt good to ride in too. Now, the battery is up front, is that right?
Yes.
And that's tucked in right here?
Yeah, they're 60 volt modules. They're about the size of a big shoebox. And they're basically three wide, 2 high, sitting right here. All interlinked together with the BMS from Thunderstruck. I've never charged it on anything but 110 power, just the type 1 charging.
Yeah.
All day out here autocrossing, I'll go home and I'll charge it up in about 45 minutes.
That's great.
It's not a big deal, and it's literally a 1,500 watt charger.
So when you guys built this car and you first took it for a drive, were you surprised?
Oh, for sure.
The driving on the street was cool, and then the very first autocross lap with it, I think
we came around. We brought it around in the first corner and went, "Oh my gosh, it's not a golf cart!"
yeah. We both were like, "Okay, yeah, this is a real car. This will work."
Everybody was laughing at us when we showed up with this electric car, thinking, "Why'd you bring a golf cart out to a car race?" And we really didn't know what we had. So when it took off like it did, that's when we realized, well, maybe we should get some race tires.
Yeah.
And then it's been an evolution since then to kind of tweak things. Things like the suspension that I had not paid attention to, some of the suspension geometry. Phil was able to come in and see some things that I had not seen. We extended the shocks, put the travel of the shock more in the center of the travel of the shock.
Okay.
Which really helped the ride of the car. The
components are C5, C6 components, yep. But then the way that you guys have mounted them up is custom to this car.
Sort of. When we built a sprint car, before we built the Corvette version of this, we built a sprint car that we were wanting to take to Pikes Peak.
Oh, okay.
So we got a roller sprint car home, and the sprint car was so confining, it just didn't feel like you could really drive it on a mountain road. And so he got the idea, hey, we're going to split it and make it wider. So we split the sprint car cage, instead of 24 inches wide, we made it 30, and we made the cockpit a foot longer.
Oh, interesting.
And you sat on the transmission and you drove it like a farm tractor.
Okay.
Fastest farm tractor you ever drove.
No kidding.
But then we were parked in the pits up in Reno at an autocross race, and somebody showed up with an Ariel Atom parked next to us in the pits.
Yes.
And you could see the Corvette version, the sprint car and the Ariel Atom, sprint car and the Ariel Atom, and it's like, oh, we can do this. And this was our version of a Corvette powered Ariel Atom.
So you guys did not start with a kit per se,
No.
even though this is a tube frame. You guys designed this yourselves?
Yeah.
How did you go about starting that?
We found through a suspension tuning program that was online, they had a library of cars where they had all the suspension pickup points for adjustment purposes.
Okay.
So we were able to download that information and plot that in three-dimensional space in AutoCAD. So all these pivot points for all the suspension were all XYZ points in space on AutoCAD.
Wow.
So once we had that, then it's like started connecting lines. It's like, what can we do? And we had competing designs going. They were very similar, but there were sort of competing designs going back and forth between Phil and myself. Ultimately, we built mine, but
good-natured competition.
His potentially would have been better because it had a full cage, and it would have given us the ability to do speed laps at some place like Sonoma. Sonoma didn't want us doing speed laps in this thing with the open wheel, no cage. So, but that was fine.
Yeah.
There's always that possibility of building another one that has that capability.
Why not? So I got to be honest, when we were doing our laps, I saw this when we're in the grid, the speedometer, and I was like, I ought to look at that. Never did.
Yeah.
Never did. So what is the top speed that you guys have seen in this car so far?
Top speed out here autocrossing is like 73.
Yeah, that's
It's
fast.
not that fast.
Well, in a cone course, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a sprint to get up to that.
Yes. Yeah. With the Nissan Leaf differential, with the single speed, the car mathematically topped out at 108 miles an hour. But now with the Nissan, with the 6-speed, we're running in second, but you could potentially run in third or run in fourth and have like a much higher top speed.
Which is one of the nice things about an electric motor is that you don't have to row gears. You could just start where you want, right?
But you know, more and more people, Toyota's working on it, Ford's working on it. People are working on transmissions for electric cars. And they're coming up with clutches that are a clutch pedal, but it actually just drops torque while you can shift gears.
Interesting.
And they're coming up with ways to bring sound into it, vibration into it, to try to mimic the electric or the gas-powered engines.
It'll be interesting to see where that falls. The only one I've seen in firsthand is the Porsche. The Porsche Taycan has 2 speeds for track use and when you get up fast enough. But yeah, it'd be pretty cool. A lot of the conversions still have the 5 speeds in them.
Yeah. The Corvette version of the car has the brakes master cylinder, clutch master cylinder, and there's also a tach mounted right here.
Oh, cool.
Put this together, it was an homage to the other one to bring all this stuff together and set it here. And we don't need a tach, we need a speedometer.
What are some of the things that you did in the interior here? There's kind of a lot. Yeah, some different switches. There's a some sort of computer there. What are we looking at?
So that's an LCD display that basically monitors your battery.
Okay.
So you can look at, this has 96 cells in the battery pack, and so you can look at the health of each cell, the temperature and voltage of each cell.
All through that.
Yes.
Very cool.
And then that's a sub screen, so you can go to bottom screens and you can see the individual cells. We just leave it on the summary screen, that basically just tells you the battery health. And it also tells you how many watts you're using and generating. So you can basically get an idea of how much power you're putting on the ground.
Very cool.
And with the Nissan, we're pulling 160 kW max. The Teslas are all like double, triple that.
Sure.
So we're really never taxing the batteries. We've really never drawn maximum voltage out of the batteries. At least in my opinion, we've never really.
Yeah, it's got a battery temperature monitor on there, and it doesn't warm up for us.
I did put there is airflow past the batteries.
Okay.
There's like an air cleaner element on the front of the battery box. The air comes in the front of the car. The theory was you'd have some air traveling past the batteries just so you wouldn't end up with a hot spot in there. But it never has played out. We've never had any heat like that really generated at all. I figured out that we're utility consultants, so we're dealing with power and electrical engineers all the time.
Yeah.
Not electrical engineer, but close enough to be able to do the calculations on the loads and the size of the conductors to get from the battery back to the motor. I went way over on that, not really understanding how much power I was going to be passing back and forth.
Yeah.
So we basically went big time on big copper conductors, and nothing has ever really been a problem.
Not bad to over-engineer on something like this.
Yeah, that's the idea. Sure.
So now that everyone has seen it, is people asking you for the design? They're trying to build their own one of these?
Not really.
No?
It takes it's a journey to go from tubing on the floor to a vehicle that you're driving down the highway.
Yeah.
It's probably more than most people want to take on.
How long did it take you overall?
You know, this one was a blessing in some ways. I should say COVID was sort of a blessing because when it happened, all of a sudden there weren't Little League games to go to, soccer games to go to, and all the stuff that just kind of filled up life. We were all locked down.
Yeah.
And I had just dropped all the materials on the shop floor in January. We went to San Diego for a week and we came back and COVID happened. And I literally had all the stuff on the floor in the shop. The motor was sitting there, all the controls and everything. And over the next 7 or 8 months, got to basically put it together.
Knocked it out.
I tacked everything together. Since it was COVID and we weren't really together that much either, I tacked it myself, and then I took it to a place in Loomis. Hot Metal Fab. Hot Metal Fab.
Hot Metal Fab.
They had a whole presence online and on eBay where they were doing off-road attachments for Jeeps and stuff like that, racks and stuff like that. And they were the closest one to me physically. So I drove down there and met with the owner and told him what I had and, you know, what I was looking to have somebody do. And I think he really just thought, another dune buggy frame, sure. So when I dropped it off that day, they were like, oh, just put it over there. And I was like, oh, this is my baby. But then by the second day of working on it, they figured it out. And they had it about a month because they could only weld certain sections at a time, let that cool down. They didn't want to tweak it.
Right.
So they spent a lot of time. There was a couple tubes that I had that they didn't like that they cut out, replaced, and redid it all. They have since morphed their business and they're not even doing this kind of work anymore. But it was just a window of time where they were available and it happened. I feel like that came together with the Thunderstruck thing.
Yeah.
5 years before, or 2 years before, this wasn't possible.
Yep.
And it was all of a sudden. It just kind of came together in a window of time. And it's been pretty bulletproof since then. We broke it a couple times out here pushing it, but nothing major so far.
Any words of wisdom for folks that are interested in getting into either autocross or EV conversions or just driving? Just do it.
Just do it. You know, bring your Toyota Corolla out here, put some air in tires and go for it. And the next time you do it, you'll be better and learn from it. Yeah, I highly recommend that. And even the fabrication side of it. There's so many people out there with YouTube and stuff. If you just look around, there's so much information out there now to figure this kind of stuff out.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, in my day, when I was his age, that kind of stuff, information wasn't out there. You had to either make it yourself or figure it out yourself. But now there's so many resources out there to piece together other people's projects and make something work.
Yeah, making 400 volt connections is not as crazy as it used to be.
Still crazy, be careful.
And it is a thing. I honestly, I've taken one of the little formula cars like Doug runs with the chainsaw motor, and I've built an electric car out of that. And then we took a 27T Roadster that I had a motorcycle engine in it, originally as an autocross car. We put a motorcycle engine hooked up to a Toyota MR2 transmission and put it in the back of a Model T and raced that. And that became kind of a street rod. And ultimately I pulled it in my garage. We got into our new house. I pulled in the garage and I was working on the fuel system. And I went into the kitchen and all I could smell was gas. And my wife wasn't there. And I looked around and it's like, uh-oh. Put the car back in the trailer, took it back to the storage place and trying to figure out what am I gonna do? And it's like electric.
Yeah.
And so ultimately did an electric drive system for the 27T, got rid of the motorcycle engine, dropped the electric motor in there. And it's just a elevated golf cart.
Yeah.
It does about 55 miles an hour. So this is a little Model T, like a little street rod.
Fun.
The formula car I've had out here a couple times, we had problems with the battery wanting more juice or the engine wanting more juice than the batteries could put out. And the batteries would just go dead and then had about 3-second lag and then they'd kick back in. Finally figured out that I could tune the engine down, bring the batteries up so that the engine never asks for more than the batteries can produce.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's been just rock solid.
There's a lot of tuning in these, but people don't know until they know.
Yep. Yeah. And you just gotta be willing to roll up your sleeves and Google KW calculator and figure out how to do it. You know, it's all out there. And the trick is to find other people that are doing it.
Yeah.
And just, you know, we've had a lot of people interested in this car. Nobody's really taken on the project of duplicating it. But I think I have sparked other people to take on projects.
I think so
cool.
too.
Cool.
And we're in a good time right now. The EV community is a really positive place. It's exciting, a lot of innovation.
Well, the car, any kind of performance car thing is so expensive.
Yeah.
And we put this thing together for about 20 grand. We went to Holly High Voltage the first time and we were able to be competitive on a autocross course with everybody that was there, and then ultimately kind of refine it after that. If we were at Holly High Voltage now, I think we would have done it. We would have been fastest one out there. He was able to get second in the speed agility trials against like 200 Teslas.
Nice.
So it was cool.
Compare the build cost, but then once it's done, you know, the components, the maintenance, the wear doesn't even compare to an internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
Rebuilding, you got a race motor or something like that that's high strung. This thing is, you know, you charge it up and it's ready to go again.
No doubt.
Yeah, I'll go home, put street tires on this thing, and go get pizza. You know,
That sounds like a good afternoon. Thank you guys so much for having me out, for letting me ride in the car, for taking me through the build. I look forward to doing it again sometime.
Awesome, for sure.
Right on, thanks.
Yeah, very cool.